Welcome to Searching the Scriptures. Our Bible teacher will be Gunther von Harringa Sr. In this series of studies, we will be focusing on the book of Judges. So without further ado, let's look into God's Word, the Bible.
Good evening and welcome to Searching the Scriptures. This is going to be Judges 4, part 24, and today's date is July 3rd, 2017. In our examination of Judges 4, we've come down to the last 7 verses of this very intriguing chapter, and I'll read those. And Jael went out to meet Sisera, and said unto him, Turn in, my lord, turn in to me, fear not. And when he had turned in unto her into the tent, she covered him with a mantle. And he said unto her, Give me, I pray thee, a little water to drink, for I am thirsty. And she opened a bottle of milk, and gave him drink, and covered him. Again he said unto her, Stand in front of the tent, and it shall be, when any man doth come and inquire of thee, and say, Is there any man here? That thou shalt say, No. Then Jael, Heber's wife, took a nail of the tent, and took an hammer in her hand, and went softly unto him, and smote the nail into his temples, and fastened it into the ground. For he was fast asleep and weary. So he died. And behold, as Barak pursued Sisera, Jael came out to meet him, and said unto him, Come, and I will show thee the man whom thou seekest. And when he came into her tent, behold, Sisera lay dead, and the nail was in his temples. So God subdued on that day Jabin, the king of Canaan, before the children of Israel. And the hand of the children of Israel prospered, and prevailed against Jabin the king of Canaan, until they had destroyed Jabin king of Canaan. We are down to set number 3, and we're looking at these 2 words, and when he had turned in, which is Strong's number 5493, and unto her into the tent, which is Strong's number 168. This is the third set where we have this word 5493 repeated 3 times, and in this case with this term tent or tabernacle. And both of these words are found together in 3 other citations, and as we've seen in the preceding sets, they all accentuate this theme of judgment. In verse 10 of Numbers 12, 1 through 10, these words appear as departed and from off the tabernacle. And Miriam and Aaron spake against Moses because of the Ethiopian woman whom he had married, for he had married an Ethiopian woman. And they said, Hath Jehovah indeed spoken only by Moses? Hath he not spoken also by us? And Jehovah heard it. Now the man Moses was very meek above all the men which were upon the face of the earth. And Jehovah spake suddenly unto Moses and unto Aaron, and unto Miriam, Come out ye 3 unto the tabernacle of the congregation. And they 3 came out. And Jehovah came down in the pillar of the cloud, and stood in the door of the tabernacle, and called Aaron and Miriam. And they both came forth. And he said, Hear now my words. If there be a prophet among you, I, Jehovah, will make myself known unto him in a vision, and will speak unto him in a dream. My servant Moses is not so, who is faithful in all mine house. With him will I speak mouth to mouth, even apparently, and not in dark speeches, and the similitude of Jehovah shall he behold. Wherefore then were ye not afraid to speak against my servant Moses? And the anger of Jehovah was kindled against them, and he departed. And the cloud departed from off the tabernacle. And behold, Miriam became leprous, white as snow. And Aaron looked upon Miriam, and behold, she was leprous. The next reference is in verse 26 of Numbers 16, 23 to 34, in which these two terms are rendered as depart, and I pray you from the tents. And Jehovah spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the congregation, saying, Get you up from the tabernacle of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram. And Moses rose up and went unto Dathan and Abiram, and the elders of Israel followed him. And he spake unto the congregation, saying, Depart, I pray you, from the tents of these wicked men, and touch nothing of theirs, lest ye be consumed in all their sins. So they gat up from the tabernacle of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram on every side. And Dathan and Abiram came out and stood in the front of their tents, and their wives, and their sons, and their little children. And Moses said, Hereby ye shall know that Jehovah hath sent me to do all these works, for I have not done them of mine own mind. If these men die the common death of all men, or if they be visited after the visitation of all men, then Jehovah hath not sent me. But if Jehovah make a new thing, and the earth open up her mouth and swallow them up with all that appertain unto them, and they go down quick or alive into the pit, then ye shall understand that these men have provoked Jehovah. And it came to pass, as he had made an end of speaking all these words, that the ground clave asunder that was under them. And the earth opened her mouth and swallowed them up, and their houses, and all the men that appertained unto Korah, and all their goods. They and all that appertained to them went down alive into the pit. And the earth closed upon them, and they perished from among the congregation. And all Israel that were round about them fled at the cry of them, for they said, Lest the earth swallow us up also. The last passage in which we find these two words are verse 8 of Judges 20, 1 to 8, which is a continuation of the historical parable that began in Judges 19 with regard to the death of the concubine, which exemplifies the death of the New Testament institutional churches and denominations as of May 21, 1988. Then all the children of Israel went out, and the congregation was gathered together as one man, from Dan even to Beersheba, with the land of Gilead unto Jehovah in Mizpah. And the chief of all the people, even of all the tribes of Israel, presented themselves in the assembly of the people of God, 400,000 footmen that drew sword. Now the children of Benjamin heard that the children of Israel were gone up to Mizpah. Then said the children of Israel, Tell us, how was this wickedness? And the Levite, the husband of the woman that was slain, answered, and said, I came into Gibeah that belongeth to Benjamin, I and my concubine to lodge. And the men of Gibeah rose against me, and beset the house round about me by night, and thought to have slain me, and my concubine have they forced, that she is dead. And I took my concubine and cut her in pieces, and sent her throughout all the country of the inheritance of Israel, for they have committed lewdness and folly in Israel. Behold, ye are all children of Israel. Give here your advice and counsel. And all the people arose as one man, saying, We will not any of us go to his tent, neither will we any of us turn into his house. All right, moving on, we're going to go down to the next two words. She covered him with a mantle, here in Judges 4, verse 18. And these terms do not appear together except in this verse. So we're going to have to look at them individually. Mantle is Strong's number 8063. And it's actually only found in this verse, but let's see if its root word helps us to understand the spiritual meaning that God has hidden within this account. We understand, of course, in the historical setting that this might have been a blanket of some kind so that Sisera would be able to sleep somewhat comfortably for a short time until his demise. Its root word is 5564, and it's translated in the following ways: lay 18 times, uphold 9 times, put 5 times, lean 3 times, stay 3 times, sustained 3 times, and once as holden up, borne up, established, stand fast, lieth hard, rested, and set. The following are some examples of how God utilizes this term. In an earlier study, when we were referring to Jael and her name, Jael is 3278, and her name is identical to that of wild goat, which is 3277. And in looking at those words, we were directed to a passage in Leviticus 16 that outlines what was to be done with 2 goats. The one was the Lord's goat, or Jehovah's goat, picturing Christ's sacrifice for his elect people from the foundation of the world. And the second was the scapegoat, as we read about here in verse 21 and of Leviticus 16. And in this verse, shall lay is this root word 5564 of the term mantle. And Aaron shall lay both his hands upon the head of the live goat, and confess over him all the iniquities of the children of Israel, and all their transgressions, in all their sins, putting them upon the head of the goat, and shall send him away by the hand of a fit man into the wilderness. In similar fashion, in verse 14 of Leviticus 24, 10 through 16, the Bible presents the fate of a man who had cursed Jehovah and the penalty God prescribed for his sin. And here again, this word is rendered as him lay. And the son of an Israelitish woman, whose father was an Egyptian, went out among the children of Israel. And this son of the Israelitish woman and a man of Israel strove together in the camp. And the Israelitish woman's son blasphemed the name of Jehovah and cursed. And they brought him unto Moses, and his mother's name was Shelomith, the daughter of Dibri, of the tribe of Dan. And they put him in ward, that the mind of Jehovah might be showed them. And Jehovah spake unto Moses, saying, Bring forth him that hath cursed without the camp, and let all that heard him lay their hands upon his head, and let all the congregation stone him. And thou shalt speak unto the children of Israel, saying, Whosoever curseth his God shall bear his sin, and he that blasphemeth the name of Jehovah, he shall surely be put to death. And all the congregation shall certainly stone him, as well the stranger as he that is born in the land, when he blasphemeth the name of Jehovah, shall be put to death. This term can also be used in a positive way, as Numbers 27:18 and 23 reveal God's choice for Moses' successor Joshua, a great type or figure of the Lord Jesus Christ himself. It is expressed as and lay and he laid, respectively. And Jehovah said unto Moses, Take thee Joshua the son of Nun, a man in whom is the Spirit, and lay thine hand upon him. And then in verse 23, and he laid his hands upon him, and gave him a charge, as Jehovah commanded by the hand of Moses. This is also the case in Psalm 3:5, in which this word is rendered as sustain in this very comforting verse. I laid me down and slept. I awaked, for Jehovah sustained me. In Psalm 88:7, however, it's again employed as far as God's wrath is concerned, pointing to Christ's atonement from the foundation of the world. Thy wrath lieth hard. This is the word, lieth hard, upon me. And thou hast afflicted me with all thy waves. Selah. Ezekiel 24:2 likewise is focused on God's wrath against his corporate people, Judah and Jerusalem, in the historical context, but they typify the New Testament churches and denominations that came under God's judgment on May 21, 1988, at the beginning of the Great Tribulation period. Son of man, write thee the name of the day, even of this same day. The king of Babylon set, this is the word, set, himself against Jerusalem this same day. So we see that the mantle that Jael placed upon Sisera, and we always have to keep in mind that Sisera is a spiritual portrayal of Satan. This mantle was, in effect, a death sentence for him, even as Satan was vanquished at the end of the Great Tribulation on May 21, 2011, by the Lord Jesus Christ, who began his rule of judgment that is currently taking place on planet Earth during this prolonged day of judgment. All right, let's then turn our attention to the next word, she covered. And this is Strong's number 3580. And we find it, for example, in referring to the plagues of locusts, the plague of locusts in Exodus 10:15. And it's translated in Exodus 10:15 as, for they covered. And that's how the verse starts out. For they covered the face of the whole earth, so that the land was darkened, and they did eat every herb of the land, and all the fruit of the trees which the hail had left. And there remained not any green thing in the trees, or in the herbs of the field, through all the land of Egypt. Also in Exodus 15:5 and 10, the defeat of Pharaoh Thutmose III, the Pharaoh of the Exodus, and the entire Egyptian army perished. And here this word is expressed as covered. The depths have covered them. They sank into the bottom as a stone. And then in verse 10, thou didst blow with thy wind, the sea covered them. They sank as lead in the mighty waters. Earlier in today's study, I quoted from Numbers 16 with regard to God's judgment upon Korah, Dathan, and Abiram and their households. This word is rendered as closed in verse 33. They and all that appertained to them went down alive into the pit, and the earth closed upon them, and they perished from among the congregation. Similarly, Psalm 106:17 references this same account and again renders this word as and covered. The earth opened and swallowed up Dathan and covered the company of Abiram. In verse 26 of Job 21:18-26, we see the fate of the wicked ultimately. How oft is the candle of the wicked put out, and how oft cometh their destruction upon them. God distributeth sorrows in his anger. They are as stubble before the wind, and as chaff that the storm carrieth away. God layeth up his iniquity for his children. He rewardeth him, and he shall know it. His eyes shall see his destruction, and he shall drink of the wrath of the Almighty. For what pleasure hath he in his house after him, when the number of his months is cut off in the midst? Shall any teach God knowledge, seeing he judges those that are high? One dieth in his full strength, being wholly at ease and quiet. His breasts are full of milk, and his bones are moistened with marrow. And another dieth in the bitterness of his soul, and never eateth with pleasure. They shall lie down alike in the dust, and the worms shall cover them. That's our word, shall cover. Lastly, we want to take a look at verse 42 of Jeremiah 51, 35 to 58. And in this passage, we witness another portrait of the defeat of Babylon, representing Satan's kingdom, even as both Nebuchadnezzar as well as Sisera typify Satan. The violence done to me and to my flesh be upon Babylon, shall the inhabitant of Zion say, and my blood upon the inhabitants of Chaldea shall Jerusalem say. Therefore thus saith Jehovah, Behold, I will plead thy cause, and take vengeance for thee, and I will dry up her sea, and make her springs dry. And Babylon shall become heaps, a dwelling place for dragons, and astonishment, and an hissing, without an inhabitant. They shall roar together like lions, they shall yell as lions' whelps. In their heat I will make their feasts, and I will make them drunken, that they may rejoice and sleep a perpetual sleep, and not awake, saith Jehovah. I will bring them down like lambs to the slaughter, like rams with he-goats. How is Shishak taken? Shishak is another word for Babylon. And how is the praise of the whole earth surprised? How is Babylon become an astonishment among the nations? The sea is come upon Babylon. Remember, the sea refers to hell or the grave. She is covered. This is our word 3680. She is covered with the multitude of the waves thereof. Her cities are a desolation, a dry land and a wilderness, a land wherein no man dwelleth, neither doth any son of man pass thereby. And I will punish Bel in Babylon, and I will bring forth out of his mouth that which he hath swallowed up. And the nations shall not, and the nations shall not flow together any more unto him. Yea, the wall of Babylon shall fall. My people, go ye out of the midst of her, and deliver ye every man his soul from the fierce anger of Jehovah. And lest your heart faint, and ye fear for the rumor that shall be heard in the land, a rumor shall both come 1 year, and after that, in another year, shall come a rumor, and violence in the land, ruler against ruler. Therefore, behold, the days come that I will do judgment upon the graven images of Babylon, and her whole land shall be confounded, and all her slain shall fall in the midst of her. Then the heaven and the earth and all that is therein shall sing of Babylon, and her whole land shall be confounded, and all her slain shall fall in the midst of her. Then the heaven and the earth and all that is therein shall sing for Babylon, for the spoiler shall come unto her from the north, saith Jehovah. As Babylon hath caused the slain of Israel to fall, so at Babylon shall fall the slain of all the earth. Ye that have escaped the sword, go away, stand not still, remember Jehovah afar off, and let Jerusalem come into your mind. We are confounded, because we have heard reproach. Shame hath covered our faces, for strangers are come into the sanctuaries of Jehovah's house. Wherefore, behold, the days come, saith Jehovah, that I will do judgment upon her graven images, and through all her land the wounded shall groan. Though Babylon should mount up to heaven, and though she should fortify the height of her strength, yet from me shall the spoilers come unto her, saith Jehovah. A sound of a cry cometh from Babylon, and great destruction from the land of the Chaldeans, because Jehovah hath spoiled Babylon, and destroyed out of her the great voice. When her waves do roar like great waters, a noise of their voice is uttered, because the spoiler is come upon her, even upon Babylon. And her mighty men are taken. Every one of their bows is broken. For Jehovah God of recompenses shall surely requite. And I will make drunk her princes, and her wise men, her captains, and her rulers, and her mighty men, and they shall sleep a perpetual sleep, and not wake, saith the King, whose name is Jehovah of hosts. Thus saith Jehovah of hosts, the broad walls of Babylon shall be utterly broken, and her high gates shall be burned with fire, and the people shall labor in vain, and the folk in the fire, and they shall be weary. Once again, we see that God is bringing judgment upon Babylon, typifying the world, typifying Satan's kingdom, in the same way that he used Babylon, Satan's kingdom, to infiltrate the churches and denominations to bring judgment upon them. But now he's bringing judgment upon Babylon. And we've seen this repeatedly, and we'll continue to see this throughout the book of Judges. But it looks like we'll have to stop here today. Lord willing, we'll continue our examination of Judges 4 in our next lesson.
Thank you for joining us today for Searching the Scriptures. Until next time, to God be the glory.